My grandmother wasn't supposed to see me in that uniform. She stood across the street, watching me clock out of my second job, confusion written across her face. When I walked over, she didn't greet me. She asked one question. Why aren't you using the trust? I froze. Because according to my Uncle Keto, there was no trust. The next morning, our family lawyer stopped answering calls. Safina was living a life no one truly understood. Every day, she woke up early and went to her data entry job. She sat in front of a computer for hours, typing numbers and checking files. Her work was quiet and tiring, but she stayed focused. After finishing in the afternoon, she did not rest. She quickly changed her clothes and went to the restaurant where she worked at night as a manager. There, she solved problems, handled staff issues, and made sure customers were satisfied. By the time she returned home, she was exhausted. Most nights, she slept only a few hours before starting again. Her family saw her working hard, but they never asked why. They believed she was simply building discipline and gaining experience. Some even praised her for being responsible and focused. They thought she wanted to prove herself. No one looked deeper. No one questioned why a qualified woman like Safina was working 2 jobs just to survive. She had the education and skills for a better position, but she never complained. Safina did not correct their assumptions. She stayed quiet because she trusted what she had been told about the family inheritance years ago. There had been a discussion after her grandfather passed away. At that time, she was informed that everything had already been handled. She believed the matter was finished and respected the decision. She thought there was nothing left for her to receive, so she continued working hard without expecting help. Even when money became tight, she stayed silent. She paid her own bills and managed her own needs. She did not ask for support. In her mind, the inheritance situation had already been settled, and she did not want to create tension in the family. So she kept pushing herself every day, building a double life that no one questioned, not knowing that the truth was very different from what she had been told. After her grandfather passed away, the whole family was in pain. During that time, Keto took control of the situation. He told everyone that the estate had many debts and very little money left. He explained that most of the property was already used to pay bills and clear obligations. According to him, there was nothing extra to share. He spoke with confidence and showed papers that seemed official. Because he was the one handling everything, the family trusted him. Keto said he would manage the probate process himself. He explained that probate was a legal step to settle the estate, and he promised to complete it properly. He also said there was no separate trust set up for Safina or anyone else. He claimed that if any documents had once existed, they were outdated or invalid. He made it clear that there would be no formal trust distribution, because there was no remaining fund to distribute. Safina listened quietly. She did not argue. She believed that family leadership meant honesty. Since Keto was older and had experience, she assumed he was telling the truth. She trusted that he was acting in everyone's best interest. She felt that asking too many questions would seem disrespectful during a time of grief, so she accepted his explanation and moved on with her life. Because of this belief, Safina never looked for hidden accounts or private records. She never doubted his words. When money became tight later, she assumed it was just life's pressure, not a missing trust. She continued working hard, thinking that everything had already been settled legally. In her mind, the inheritance issue was closed. She believed the estate truly had no extra funds. She had no reason to suspect that something was missing. Trusting Keto's statements, she accepted the situation completely. This decision shaped her next years, as she continued struggling financially, unaware that a formal trust may have been created long ago and was still active behind the scenes. Everything changed the day her grandmother asked a simple question. It was not loud. It was not dramatic, but it stopped Safina in her tracks. Her grandmother had been watching her work for a long time, quietly noticing how tired she looked and how hard she was trying. That day, when they were alone, her grandmother's face showed concern, not confusion. She asked why Safina was working so much when there was a trust set up for her. Safina did not understand at first. She thought she heard the word wrong. Trust. She had never been told about any active trust. According to what Keto had said, there was no trust left after the estate was settled. But her grandmother's voice was calm and sure. She did not sound unsure. She sounded like someone who remembered everything clearly. Her grandmother explained that years ago, she had met with the estate planner together with her late husband. During that meeting, they signed official documents. Those documents created a trust for Safina. It was not a small plan. It was designed to support Safina's education and living expenses until she reached 35 years old. The purpose was simple. Safina should not struggle financially while building her future. The trust was meant to cover school costs, housing support, and basic needs. Safina felt her heart beat faster as she listened. Her grandmother even described the office where the papers were signed and the lawyer who explained the details. She remembered approving the structure because she wanted Safina to have security. The trust was created to protect her, not to control her. This information shocked Safina deeply. It did not match anything she had been told. She had believed there was no remaining fund. Now her grandmother was describing a legal plan that clearly existed. The question was no longer about money. It was about truth. Safina realized that something important had been hidden or misunderstood. That single question from her grandmother opened the door to a much bigger problem she never expected. That evening, Safina could not stay quiet. After hearing her grandmother's words, she needed proof. She went to Quito and asked calmly for copies of the trust documents. She explained that she only wanted to understand the truth. She did not accuse him. She did not raise her voice. She simply asked for the official papers so she could read them herself. At first, Quito acted relaxed. He said there was no need to worry. He told her that all important estate files were stored safely. He promised to check the records and send her copies soon. He spoke in a confident way, as if the request was simple. Safina waited, thinking it would only take a short time. But hours passed and nothing came. When she asked again, Quito said the documents were archived in a storage system and might take time to retrieve. He mentioned that some records were handled by the previous office staff. He blamed possible administrative errors. His answers started to change. The words became less clear. He avoided giving direct timelines. Safina noticed the difference. His voice, which had sounded steady before, now felt uncertain. When she asked more detailed questions, he became slightly defensive. He said she should trust him because he had already managed everything properly. He reminded her that family matters should not be questioned too deeply. This reaction made Safina uncomfortable. She was not trying to create conflict. She only wanted copies of her own trust information. The delay did not make sense to her. If everything was handled correctly, the documents should have been easy to provide. The fact that there were excuses instead of clear answers made her feel something was wrong. That was the first moment she realized the situation might not be as simple as she thought. The missing documentation was not just about paperwork. It was about transparency. Quito's shifting tone became a signal that the story she had believed for years might need to be checked carefully. Safina understood that she could no longer rely only on verbal explanations. She needed real records. Safina decided she could not wait any longer. The delays from Quito made her feel uneasy, and her grandmother's words kept repeating in her mind. Instead of arguing again, she chose a different step. She searched through her grandfather's old records and found the name and contact details of the original law firm that had handled the estate years ago. She did not tell anyone. She wanted answers directly from the source. The next morning, she called the law firm herself. The call was professional and calm. The receptionist asked for her full name and basic details. Safina provided everything carefully. They told her that because the matter involved financial documents, she would need to verify her identity. She agreed immediately and followed their instructions. She sent the required identification documents and waited. After some time, a representative contacted her and confirmed that she was officially listed as a beneficiary of a trust created by her grandfather. Safina felt her hands grow cold as she listened. The representative explained that the trust was still active. It had not been closed. It had not been canceled. It was legally registered and fully funded. She was told something even more surprising. The trust account had been invested over the years, and it had been generating returns. The money had been growing according to the investment plan set by the estate documents. Safina had expected to hear that there was no money. Instead, she learned that the fund was alive and increasing in value. The representative also mentioned that annual statement had been prepared and mailed every year. Safina asked where they were sent. When she heard the address, she did not recognize it. It was not her home address. It was not her workplace. It was an address she had never used in her life. That meant she had never received any updates about the account. Safina felt a mix of shock and confusion. She asked for copies of all statements, and the firm agreed to provide them after final confirmation. For the first time, she saw clear proof that the trust existed and had been active all along. This direct contact changed everything she believed about her financial situation and opened a new path toward the truth. When Safina received the documents from the law firm, she decided to take the next step carefully. She scheduled an in-person meeting with the attorney who was handling the trust file. She wanted to see everything face to face and understand every detail clearly. When the meeting day arrived, she walked into the office with the printed statements and copies of the trust records in her bag. She felt nervous, but she stayed calm and respectful. The attorney greeted her politely and invited her to sit. At first, the conversation was simple. Safina explained what she had learned and showed the documents she had received. The lawyer began reviewing the file on the computer. As he read through the records, his expression slowly changed. His face became serious. His movements became slower. It was clear that something in the file had caught his attention. Safina noticed that he suddenly became more focused and quiet. After a few minutes, he leaned back in his chair and carefully checked the transaction history. He compared signatures, dates, and authorization notes. Then he confirmed something that made the situation more serious. The trust had not only been active, but money had been withdrawn from it over the years. The attorney explained that each year, disbursement requests had been submitted. These requests were officially signed and approved. According to the documents, the withdrawals were categorized as educational support and living expenses. The signatures matched the designated trustee listed in the trust agreement. That trustee was Keto. Safina felt her heart tighten as she heard this. The lawyer clarified that only the trustee had authority to approve those payments. The system showed that the requests were processed legally based on the trustee's approval. The firm had followed instructions exactly as written in the trust agreement. The attorney's reaction showed that this was not a small mistake. He looked concerned because the records clearly showed a pattern of annual withdrawals. Everything was documented. Nothing appeared accidental. The trust had been managed under Keto's name as the responsible trustee. Safina realized that the information she had received was no longer just confusing. It was serious and backed by official records. The lawyer's stiff reaction confirmed that the file contained details that required attention and careful review. This meeting marked a turning point in understanding how the trust had truly been handled. After reviewing the trust file, Safina asked for a full financial summary. She wanted to see every transaction clearly, without missing details. The law firm provided detailed reports showing years of activity. She sat down and slowly read each page. The numbers were clear, organized, and officially recorded. There was no confusion in the documents. The summaries showed regular withdrawals from the trust account. These payments were not random. They were listed under specific categories such as educational support and housing allowance. According to the trust agreement, these categories were meant to help Safina with school expenses, living costs, and basic financial needs. The records showed that money had been released every year under those names. Safina felt confused as she continued reading. The amounts were not small. They were consistent and structured, which meant this was not a one-time transaction. The withdrawals followed a pattern. Each year, the same types of payments were approved and processed. The documents also showed the trustee's authorization for each disbursement. When Safina compared the dates of the withdrawals with public property records, something caught her attention. Around the same time the trust funds were being withdrawn, Keto had purchased new property investments. The timing matched closely. Some of the trust withdrawals were similar in amount to the down payments listed on those property documents. Safina checked the records again to be sure she was not misunderstanding anything. The numbers aligned clearly. She began to connect the details carefully. While the trust account showed funds leaving under educational and housing categories, Keto's personal investments were growing. Properties had been added to his name during the same period. The trust was supposed to support her, yet she had been working 2 jobs to survive. Meanwhile, the funds meant for her support were being redirected through official trustee approvals. Safina felt a deep mix of shock and disbelief. The paperwork did not show mistakes. It showed organized financial movement. The withdrawals were documented, categorized, and signed. Everything appeared legally processed, but the purpose of the funds did not match her real-life situation. She realized that the money designed to help her build her future had not reached her. Instead, it had been used elsewhere. While she was earning income through long working hours, the trust account had been active in the background. The financial records made one thing very clear. The money existed, it moved regularly, and it was linked to new assets acquired by the trustee. Safina did not call Quito for a secret talk. She knew that a private conversation could turn into excuses or pressure. Instead, she chose a clear and formal step. She sent a message to the family group and requested a family meeting. She explained that she wanted everyone to understand the trust records together. She attached copies of the documents from the law firm. She also asked that all information be printed and ready so no one could say anything was missing. On the day of the meeting, the atmosphere felt heavy. Family members arrived with curiosity. Some looked confused. Others looked worried. Safina stayed calm. She placed the printed trust statements on the table. She did not shout. She did not accuse anyone. She simply said she wanted clarity. Then she turned to Quito and asked him to explain the trustee withdrawals that were shown in the records. Quito first tried to stay relaxed. He said the withdrawals were part of temporary management adjustments. He explained that sometimes trustees need to move funds for planning purposes. He claimed that the money was handled carefully, and that everything was within legal limits. He spoke in a confident tone, trying to make the situation sound normal. But Safina had the numbers in front of her. She pointed to the dates, the amounts, and the categories written in the statements. She asked why educational support and housing allowance payments were recorded every year if she never received them. She also showed how the withdrawal amounts matched the timing of Quito's property purchases. The documents did not support his explanation. As the discussion continued, it became harder for Quito to maintain his narrative. The printed records showed a clear pattern. The trust was active. The funds were released regularly. The trustee's signature appeared on each disbursement. There was no sign of emergency adjustments or temporary changes. Everything looked structured and repeated over many years. The numbers spoke for themselves. Safina remained steady and respectful, but she did not step back. She asked direct questions based on the documents. The family watched closely as the explanation began to weaken. What was once described as simple management now appeared inconsistent with the official financial summaries. The confrontation was no longer emotional. It was supported by verified records, and the truth was becoming visible to everyone in the room. After the family meeting, Safina returned to the law firm with all the printed records. The attorney reviewed everything again with careful attention. This time, the tone in the room was serious. The lawyer explained that the trust agreement was not just a simple family arrangement. It was a legal contract with clear rules. These rules included fiduciary responsibility clauses. That meant the trustee had a legal duty to manage the money only for the benefit of the beneficiary, not for personal use. The lawyer explained that when someone becomes a trustee, they accept full responsibility. They must act honestly, keep accurate records, and use the funds exactly as written in the agreement. If money is taken for personal gain, or used outside the approved purpose, it is considered a breach of duty. A breach is not just a small mistake. It is a serious legal violation. The documents showed that funds had been withdrawn under educational and housing categories. But the pattern of use raised concerns because the beneficiary had not received the support. The attorney became more cautious as he reviewed the timeline. He said that if the withdrawals were not used according to the trust terms, it could lead to legal action. The trust allowed for accountability. It also allowed the beneficiary to request a review. Since the records showed repeated transactions, the situation needed immediate attention. The lawyer advised that the first step should be to stop any further withdrawals and secure the remaining funds. He also recommended a formal audit of the account. An independent financial review would confirm where the money went and whether it matched the trust instructions. The lawyer made it clear that transparency was now necessary. This was no longer a private family discussion. It had become a matter of legal responsibility. When Kido learned that the documents had been reviewed by the attorney, his confidence changed. He understood that the matter was not just about explanation anymore. The written agreement was stronger than any verbal statement. The records could not be ignored. The lawyer explained that if misuse was proven, there could be consequences such as removal of trustee authority and possible repayment of funds. Kido realized the situation had shifted completely. What started as a family trust discussion was now a legal review with possible liability. The trust agreement defined clear duties, and the documents showed that those duties had to be respected. The focus moved from confusion to accountability, and the legal process began to take shape. Within a few months, the situation started to change in a real and official way. The lawyer helped begin a structured plan for restitution. This meant that the money that had been used improperly would be paid back in a clear and organized system. It was not emotional. It was not based on arguments. It was written in documents and approved through legal steps. The repayment schedule was designed carefully, so the trust could recover its value over time. At the same time, the trustee authority was reviewed. After full examination of the records, it was decided that Kido would no longer control the trust account. His authority was formally removed according to the terms in the agreement. The trust needed protection, so the responsibility was reassigned to an independent financial institution. This new trustee was not a family member. It was a professional organization that followed strict rules and regular audits. This change ensured that every future transaction would be monitored properly and recorded without personal influence. Safina watched this process closely. She did not celebrate loudly. She did not try to humiliate anyone. She focused on understanding each step. When the new trustee took control, she received clear access to updated statements and full transparency. For the first time, she could see the complete picture of the trust without confusion or missing information. Everything was documented and available to her. Because the funds were now secured and managed correctly, Safina was able to reduce her work schedule. She did not stop working completely, but she no longer needed 2 jobs just to survive. She adjusted her hours so she could focus more on her personal goals and long-term plans. This change did not mean someone saved her. It meant she finally had access to the financial support that had always been written in her name. Safina understood something important during this time. She did not inherit special treatment. She did not receive extra favor. What she gained was accountability. The trust was not a gift of privilege. It was a legal responsibility meant to protect her future. By following the documents and the law, she reclaimed what already belonged to her. From that day forward, the family changed their habits. No one handled financial paperwork casually anymore. Any document related to money, property, or agreements was shared with Safina for review first. She became the person who checked details carefully before anything was signed. The outcome did not just fix the trust. It changed the way the family respected transparency and responsibility forever.